Can you talk to us about how you realised something was wrong? What made you go to the doctors?
You know, it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through.
We can take a breather.
Yeah.
In October 2020, Jen's life changed forever. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and found herself fighting for her life. You found out the news.
Yeah.
And then you played like one of your best games that weekend, didn't you?
I remember someone saying to me that celebration was a bit much, but they didn't understand what was going on.
Fortunately, Jen has come out the other side and is doing amazing work to raise awareness all around breast cancer. And this year was awarded an MBE for her services to football and charity.
When you approach Prince William, you have to, like, two-step, there's a big process. Like, right, okay, just don't mess this up. Like, can you say he's a nice guy? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd really like that. He's one of the team. Hello, welcome to Stronger Than You Think. Today we've got a fantastic guest. We're joined by current Arsenal defender and former Scotland international footballer, Jen Beattie. Now, Jen grew up in a very sporty household. Her dad, John, played international rugby for Scotland, and her brother followed in his footsteps and also played for the country. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today.
for having me.
Yeah, we were just saying, obviously, a very sporty family. I mean,
Yeah, the question I had was, what happens?
Why not rugby?
Yeah, that, but what happens with the TV remote? Like,
Well,
do you watch
good
football
question.
or rugby? Because that's what I can't grasp.
So I remember multiple occasions where Big Brother Johnny would take the remote from me and switch over to rugby. But I got pretty lucky, to be fair. He was quite a big fan of football. He played a lot when he was younger as well. So there was a good balance between all sports, to be honest.
did you always find yourself kind of growing up going to the park with your brothers and sisters and your dad?
Yeah, it was constant. I mean, we're really lucky we lived opposite Glasgow Accies, like rugby club. So I was literally opposite a big bit of grass to just go and play football, rugby, run around, cricket, everything. And my brother was also left-footed, so I genuinely have to credit him a little bit. That I have a little bit of a left foot. Like, I'm in the garden just passing back and forth constant with him. Like I said, he played a little bit when he was younger. I think he had trials for like Rangers Football Club when he was a kid, and obviously eventually went on to play rugby. But yeah, very, very sporting household. It was class.
So would you say it was your brother, or was there someone who particularly inspired you to get into football?
I think Johnny was a huge part. I'm not gonna lie. Like, because he played when he was younger, it definitely got me into it as a kid. But obviously the people I probably looked up to were the likes of Julie Fleeting. She was such a huge role model in terms of Scottish football. She was the first female to go and play pro in America, so that opportunity that, right, I can do this as a job, kind of when I saw her go and do it, that was probably the biggest thing. I'm seeing Keira Knightley in your notes, and I'm like, yeah, but it is true. I remember a birthday party. I don't know what age I was, but my birthday party was, me and my mates went to go see Bend It Like Beckham, and I was just like, right, that's the dream as well. Go and play soccer in America. That was the thing. But I was a huge Arsenal fan as a kid as well, and so the Invincibles, watching Thierry Henry at the, every weekend absolutely smash it for Arsenal was huge. So I had multiple role models. Very lucky.
When did that opportunity at Arsenal come around? And considering you were such a big fan, that must have been just a massive moment in your life.
Yeah, it was massive. I remember, I'll never forget the moment. It was massive. I remember being in sixth form. We called it sixth year in Scotland. Everyone was sort of putting in their UCAS applications for uni, and I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I was at Celtic at the time, and I was genuinely thinking of taking a year out. Like, I wasn't the most academic. I'd given up a lot of studies to play football for Scotland and Celtic, and I was kind of umming and ahhing what I want to do. Do I want to travel? What do I want to do? And then I was in sixth form on a free period in the sort of, what do you call it, the common room, the room where everyone goes to hang out or study. Not much studying was done. But I got the call from Tony Gervais, who was my under-19 Scotland coach that was then the assistant at Arsenal. And it was January, everyone was putting in their UCAS applications, and I got a call from him saying, we want to bring you down in summer, and that was it. I was like, where'd I sign? I couldn't jump at it quick enough. They were also giving the opportunity to put you through education, so I got to go to Hertfordshire Uni whilst playing semi-pro for Arsenal, so it it was the biggest thing you could do as an 18-year-old in terms of women's football at that time, and I just felt that it was a no-brainer. I jumped at it. I couldn't get down there quick enough, to be honest.
I was going to say that's quite a big step to just suddenly get that call and then, you know, still doing academics as well. Was it quite hard to balance, I suppose, going into that intense environment, but then everything else going on as well?
Yeah, it was. But in those days, like, you see professional football for what it is now, right? But when I was 18, it was still semi-pro. So it was still training Tuesday, Thursday nights, 5 o'clock. Yeah. So I still got to be a full-time student, really, which I always count myself pretty lucky to be able to have that experience as well, like living in halls, meeting other people, having a different network. And I always think that was probably what has always been the common denominator of me enjoying my football as much as possible when I've had other things going on, whether it's education, mates, another life sort of outside of football, so it doesn't become too intense, because it is the most intense thing when you're in it.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
That's a really good point, because actually now, I guess the process for footballers coming through is you get to an academy and you don't have that balance. Yeah. Whereas because the game hadn't come on as much as it has now, you have that well-rounded kind of experience of the world and a normal experience, really. So you're not feeling like you're having to chase that in your life now, I guess.
Yeah, I always say it's constantly trying to find that balance, and I feel like I bring up Jill Scott in everything I do, but like, she was beyond instrumental as an influence for me as a teammate at Man City for so many years. And she was literally the one that taught me that find your formula, find your balance. You don't look at the next person and copy them, it's what works for you. And I've done a lot of work with the academy girls coming through now. I was an ambassador last year for Arsenal Academy, performance lifestyle mentor this year at Arsenal. And it's literally about that. It's about trying to not educate people, that sounds patronising, but just understanding that there's more to life than football, and you have to find your outlet of what makes you happy off the pitch. Because I genuinely think if you're a happy person off the pitch, you're going to perform better. Because everything will always come down to performance. But it's about finding that balance and what works for you.
So before you got the call up for Arsenal, you were already in with Scotland.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I just remember I was really young, to be honest. I was about 16, I think, when I got first called in for senior women's football.
Senior?
Yeah,
16.
and it was insane. But like, Kim Little, still one of my best mates now. She's my captain at Arsenal. She was a year above me, so she'd already been involved for about a year. But we came through the Yanks ranks at youth level together. So she'd been called up, and then I got called up a few months later. So I always kind of had her to bounce off and kind of go through that journey together. But it was amazing. Like, I was just like, I loved youth levels. It was playing for your country, it was class, and then all of a sudden you were travelling to all these different countries and playing for Scotland, knowing my brother and dad had just done it for rugby. I was like, oh, cool, I'm like doing this in a different sport. This is really cool.
So in terms of like that club and playing for your country, how like intense was the team environment, or did you find it was pretty okay to manage? Because I can appreciate it's quite a high pressured, you know.
I think the most intense bubble I think I've ever, to put it like that, I found Man City very intense. It was my first sort of, not my first full-time experience. Obviously Montpellier was full-time before that, but I think being back, I'd re-signed back in England, back in the WSL, and they'd put a huge amount of investment into the women's team and signed big names like Steph Houghton, Tony Duggan, Jill Scott, huge England internationalists at the time, and the pressure to win games. I think that was my first real experience of, you know, I'm being paid to win football games, and that's the intensity, and being backed for the first time properly, I think, as well. That's the pressure that comes with that. But I loved it. I honestly think I probably thrived the most in that sort of atmosphere. And again, having top pros to kind of lean on that had kind of been through it with England for a number of years was huge for me, as a sort of young Scot coming through it. But I don't know, I think I almost preferred that environment, like for a long period of time, and then that definitely accelerated my career being in that environment. It did wonders for me as a person, as a player, be under the best coaching, best sort of S&Cs, that full-time environment. I think it genuinely taught me how to be a professional. I think I learned so much in that time period.
When do you think you was most challenged sort of during your football career? Is there any particular moments?
I think injuries are probably a pretty big challenge. I went through, to be fair, the first ever major tournament that Scotland women's team ever qualified for was the Euros in 2017. And I'd been a part of the squad for a number of years. We'd gone through this huge journey and we'd qualified for our first major tournament. And I was like, absolutely buzzing, I'm going to play at the Euros. And 6 weeks before the tournament, blew my ankle ligaments, was completely out for the summer. And I was absolutely gutted. And was very lucky at the time, was at an incredible club, Man City, completely looked after me, brilliant rehab the whole of summer. But I do think injuries are probably the most challenging thing to go through as a player, because you don't feel like yourself. You know, you're going into your work every day, but you can't do your work. It's a very strange concept that I don't think a lot of people really understand. Like, imagine going to your job but not being able to do it. It's strange. It's hard. It's isolating. You're in the gym on your own. You have to completely flip your mindset. So not only was it that, I was missing out on Scotland's first major tournament, and you know, we did qualify for the World Cup just after that, and I got to play there, so I got to be at a major tournament. But to miss out on the first one, you know, I was playing well. I was in the team. I was doing okay, and so to miss out on that was tough. But yeah. But all injuries are tough, and then you go on and you get more injuries, and it's like this.
Yeah, literally. But then, especially in like a team sport, you almost have to like check yourself how you sort of present yourself around your teammates as well. Like obviously you're going through injury, but then you've also got to be positive around your teammates. So it's like it's quite hard to manage that side of it as well.
Oh yeah, and like that probably makes me want to talk about like team selection as well. Like you always have to put team first. Like you always have to suppress however you're feeling, put your ego to the side in order to be there for the team, put a smile on, be like, and that comes more naturally to some people, and it's a lot more difficult to some people. But I think when you're in your 20s and you're super serious, and then you get a bit older and you understand the game a bit more. But definitely, I always say football is the highest highs and the lowest of lows. Whether it's lifting a trophy or getting injured or not being selected for the big games, but you have to kind of keep yourself in that middle ground, not make it too high, not make it too low. But yeah, 100%, it's always team first, and like you have to kind of just literally switch your mindset, and that's difficult sometimes to do, but we try.
Has there ever been a time when someone has started before you've kind of had to bite your tongue? And what is your process? Do you go up to them
never.
And just go, do you ever go just like, oh, well done? Like, what is it? It must be so awkward.
Yeah, no, like, of course, and like, I think every player would sit here and say that they want to play. Like, you're not, you do the job for a reason because you absolutely love it and you're competitive. I don't think you get to like a good level if you're not competitive or sort of, I guess, believe in yourself. But yeah, 100, like, of course, like, it's too competitive to not say. Of course I've been dropped. Like, I'm a squad player now for Arsenal. Like, I know my role, but I think it's about flipping your mindset. I think I've definitely seen players spit the dummy or, you know, throw in the towel, and I'm by no means perfect. Like, I've definitely had my frustrations, and over the years, absolutely. I think no player can sit here and say they haven't. But of course you need to. It's about the team and it's about winning. I'd rather win, you know. I'd rather not play and win than play and spit the dummy, or you know, have the alternative.
Because you're friends as well. You're not just teammates.
100%.
So I just thinking from my perspective, if I was you and someone else got picked over me, I'd be like, obviously you'd be really annoyed, but you're also like, oh, but I want them to do well as well. So it's like it's really tough balance, isn't it?
I think. I always try and I put myself in their shoes, right? If I'm on the pitch and someone spat their dummy, I think they were absolutely pathetic. Yeah. What I would want, so I try and be like, right, okay, I'm not playing, but what can I do? What, like, I don't know if I said this to someone recently, but I just said, like, whatever my role is, my voice went, whatever my role is, just try and be the best at it. So I'm going to be the best sub ever. If you want a water, I'm going to chuck about 10 waters at you. If you need a gel, here's a gel. You know, try and give your 2 cents where you can. Like, or if you see something on the pitch that they're not seeing, or not even, because no one can see 100% of the stuff all the time. So try and give bits of info where you can, or encouragement, anything. Just
I
be
feel
the
like
best sub. Do you know what I mean?
that is the best bit of advice for anyone, I think. It doesn't matter where you are in the team, but as long as you do the best job you possibly can, then that's only ever going to look good to the managers and what have you. Just being a team player, that's what it's about, isn't it?
I honestly think that's why I fell into team sports. Like, I love being part of a team. I can't think, individual sports were never, I'd be the one smashing rackets as a kid playing tennis, or, you know, throwing my golf club away. Like, if I couldn't handle individual sports. Team sports is why I fell into it. I love being around people. I love helping. I love being part of a team. Whatever my role is, I'll try and do it as best as possible.
Let's turn our attention to the challenges that you've faced off the pitch, Jen, because you've had a pretty tough time the last few years. Back in October 2020, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, you had no family history of it. Can you talk to us about, you know, how you realised something was wrong and what made you go to the doctors?
Initially, I felt a lump, and that was kind of out the norm for me. I think that was kind of the number one thing. And then kind of speaking to people at the time, like, honestly, one of the beauty of being, again, in a team sport is having mates to kind of talk about it. And I never found it difficult to talk about from day dot. I'd kind of be like, feeling something a bit weird, what do you think? And they'd be like, again, we have a full-time doctor, just go and see them. So that was kind of my first route. I felt something abnormal, wasn't sure, had no idea, but I didn't think it would be that, I'll be honest. Like, I still wasn't, up until I was diagnosed, I was adamant that because that wouldn't come into my head. No family history, I didn't see it coming whatsoever. But again, very grateful to Arsenal and the club. They referred me on straight away and got me to see the right doctors I need to, and was diagnosed pretty quickly.
So once you kind of knew, can you remember how you processed it? I mean, like, it's one thing your friends and family knowing, but even then sort of telling your teammates, like, was that a lot?
Yeah, I mean, it was also during COVID, so I was, you know, in the room on my own being told, which was, I'm laughing, but it was brutal. Like, I actually think I think I probably pushed it to one side of my head of how I actually processed it. Or I don't even know how I processed it. I just kind of was going to sleep and getting up and getting through the day. But no, I specifically remember obviously telling family, but teammates. I remember Joe Montemurro was my head coach at the time at Arsenal, and he was genuinely like a second dad through that time, because obviously I was away from family, and, you know, obviously I have a dad, John, unbelievable, but when you're away from home, you lean on who you're around. And I remember he kind of took that role to kind of tell everyone. Obviously I told my close mates, but he'd kind of done it, and again in small groups, because we couldn't have meetings, and I didn't want it to make it this huge thing, so he'd kind of just grabbed people. So I'll never forget that day in the gym. People were just coming in, like, and not able to hug me. Like, it was it was bizarre. I don't really know, like, looking back, it's weird talking about it, because I'm like, you just kind of go through it and you push it back, and the next day happens and you're just kind of going through it at the time. I was just trying to process it as much as possible.
I think we all forget what lockdown was like sometimes, and just to hear some news like that, and then just to not even be with your family as well.
Yeah.
How nice that your coach was that supportive. Obviously, you know, you would expect that, but to be that sensitive with that topic is so nice.
No, he was honestly unbelievable, and they all were, to be honest. Every staff member, every teammate throughout that whole process, like, I cannot thank them enough, because whenever I wanted to speak about it, they were there, and whenever I wanted to just be, you know, Jen the footballer and go to work and crack on with my stuff, they were there. You know, they were here through absolutely everything. You
found out the news.
Yeah.
And then you played, like, one of your best games that weekend, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't often score goals, like, centre back. Like, I score a couple of season max maybe, but yeah, we'd played Brighton away, and obviously the team had all been told, and, you know, I got asked, do you still want to play? Like, do you need time away? And my thing was, I just wanted to carry on. I just wanted to go into work, be my normal human self. And yeah, ended up scoring randomly. And, you know, that moment of, I remember someone saying to me that celebration was a bit much. Like, you know,
Don't say that.
Yeah, but they didn't understand what was going on. And that honestly was like if I could sum up that whole process of a team coming together and supporting me, having my back, unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, it must have been such an amazing moment for you. I know you're getting emotional now, but I feel like for people who've had to deal with cancer, who are listening or watching, you know, it is such a big, I don't know, such a big bit of news to have to process, and then to be able to continue with your job and then score, which you say doesn't happen very often, and then have that celebration where all your teammates know what's going on, no one else really gets it. It's just so nice, and that's another element of team sport. Yeah,
Thanks.
Another element of team sport, which is another family, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they literally were like, yeah, my second they still are now. Like, I genuinely have such good mates in that team, and, you know, they've seen the highs of sport and the lows of lows, and, you know, it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through, but they were unbelievable. Like, I genuinely got through it because of them, and I can't thank them enough for, like, that whole process, whether it was the club supporting me through the treatment or my teammates from, like, an emotional level. I don't know what I would have done without them.
You ended up having radiotherapy.
Yeah.
And having quite a good reaction to that, and quite a quick comeback. But how was the whole treatment process?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about cancer, like, the whole thing was a learning process for me. I didn't even have family members that had gone through any type of cancer treatment, so I didn't understand how it looked. Obviously, you hear about it and you hear stories and you hear awful things, some good things. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen. And there's so many different tests and different ways to kind of figure out what your treatment plan is going to be. And I think that's the part I found that the hardest. There was so many step-by-steps that you had to go through to get to, I guess, the end point when you're in recovery, and that's fine. But for me, I was lucky enough I didn't need chemo, which is probably what I was most scared about. So I got radiotherapy, 2 full weeks of it, and I'll never forget sitting in the doctor's office one day when he was telling me this, and they say, you know, fatigue was the biggest symptom or side effect. And they said, right, to counteract side effects, you can exercise. And I said, like, my job is, I play football. And he was like, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, crack on. He said, just be careful, but you'll be fine. So as soon as he said I can still crack on with my job, I can still do all that, was the biggest thing. Like, the fact that I can still go to work and do my job through treatment probably is what got me through it as well. The fact that I could go into work, be around mates. We all know how good exercise can be for mental health anyway, so the fact that my job was literally that, outside in the fresh air for an hour and a half, 2 hours every day, to not also counteract what I was going through, but to just help me mentally was absolutely massive. Like, so it was difficult. I'd no idea what it was, but I'd basically finish training and then I'd go straight to the hospital every day for about 2-3 weeks, I think, go through radiotherapy, and then, you know, the exercise tried to counteract the fatigue, but I think I'd be asleep by about 3 or 4 p.m, like, every day, and then get up and do it the next day. So yeah, it was tough, but it's one of those things, that's what life throws at you, and you just crack on.
I suppose it's a big thing, though, that you could carry on with training, though, even if you did have the side effects, rather than just nothing at all and having just to do the treatment.
Yeah.
I know, like, if that was me, that would really help with my head as well. 100%. So it's good that you had that.
Yeah, I think, so when I was diagnosed, I could obviously still play up until my surgery.
Yeah.
And then I had the lumpectomy to take it out. And I remember as well, we'd played Tottenham before my surgery, and I remember kind of obviously being diagnosed, still training, still playing. We played Tottenham, we'd won, and I remember just breaking down in the change room, because that was kind of, right, I'm not injured, but I've got to take some time out, and it's for this worst thing. So that was kind of a bit of a moment for me. I remember it being like, oh God, right, okay, here we go. And then obviously the surgery probably kept me out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think it was. Like it was, because like it was up here, so my legs were fine, you know. So it was like, when can I start running? I remember the surgeon being like, why are you wanting to get back to running? So I was like, because my job, like I want to get back as soon as possible, not just for the physicality of it, but for me mentally. So I remember this arm just not really being able to move, but I could run. And that feeling of being able to run, having just gone through that, like, it was just amazing. So that was about 4 to 6 weeks off the pitch. Not that long, to be honest. I just had to wait for swelling to go down once I was back in, and then radiotherapy. So it was a process with a bizarre, because I was gone through so many, like, I'd gone through injuries, but it was just a much more, I tried to treat it as an injury, but obviously it was a lot more mentally consuming than other things. But yeah, that was the process.
Did you ever have those moments where you spiraled and you got on Google, or you did stuff that so many people do when they, you know, they worry about something, or did you just literally focus on your work and kind of bury yourself in that instead?
I definitely never Googled. I think that could send anyone. I think the internet's a pretty scary place at the best of times. And that was one thing I would never do, because I just tried to, I remember texting my nurse probably 24/7, because I was just like, she was the only person that could kind of reassure me in that time, because you're in amongst elite athletes, you know, meant to be the healthiest people. So there's not, you're not around that kind of topic or discussion a lot. So I remember texting my doctor most of the time being like, what's this, what's that? Like, and she was unreal, like, reassured me. She would reply at like 10 p.m. and I'm like, why are you, what? Like, but I appreciate it so much, because then I would just go to sleep, or else I would be up thinking about something, or just doubting certain things. So yeah, there was countless of those moments, to be honest, but I definitely didn't Google. It was more just trying to find reassurance and positive reinforcement, I guess, like, from my nurse mainly.
Did you surprise yourself with how resilient you were at that time?
I guess so. I don't, like, that's a tough question, because I don't think, no one ever really knows how they're going to react in that moment. And I don't think, yes, I got through it, but I honestly would thank teammates, staff, everyone. Like, I know it was COVID, I know it was incredibly difficult not to be able to hug people, but those conversations I had with friendships, everyone, like, I think for me it was about my support network, just normalising the conversation, them being okay having it with me as well. That's what got me through, that's what made me resilient. I don't think it, of course it's like surprise, but you can't control what comes at you in life in those moments. You just have to power through. I was literally going day by day, just trying to find enjoyments of life, whether it was at training or outside, or it made me lean on people more than ever. It made me appreciate people in life that I already did, but even more so in that moment. And yeah, I look back on it like, how the heck did you get through that? But I did, so it's all good.
It's all about the tribe, isn't it? I feel like it's all about who you surround yourself with.
100%. And whether that's honestly, I think that's anything in life, whether it's something really difficult, something amazing, whether it's career-wise, personal life, relationships, friendships, anything. I think it's, you are who you surround yourself with. And I think whether it's been my career or personal stuff, I've always tried to speak about stuff that I've gone through, whether it's the best or the worst or anything in between. I've found having conversations the best part of it, or to get me through it.
Speaking of conversations, are you quite close to your brother and sister? And did they sort of encourage you to sort of speak more about the topic and obviously normalise it a bit more?
Yeah, I think, you know, I always say I'll never forget, we have quite a lot of like family WhatsApp calls, or even between my brother and sister, a lot of like just the three of us to keep the parents out of it sometimes. But I'll never forget Johnny and Julie kind of saying, you know, like, when you're ready, I think you should speak about it. And I was like, that hadn't come into my head yet. And they were like, no, the awareness piece, like, I think it would be so good for you when you're comfortable. And that did take me a while, I'm not going to lie. It had to take me to feel comfortable with it and get through it myself personally before doing that. But they were, instrumental in kind of encouraging me and giving me the support and advice, and they're epic in that sense. They're the best people and always have the best intentions at heart through absolutely everything, and unbelievable soundboards to talk about stuff, and we're a pretty open family, and I really appreciate them through absolutely everything as well.
It's nice, isn't it, just to have a really close relationship with your brother and sister. And for anyone going through something similar, Jen, what advice would you give them?
I think the number one thing for me was just being able to speak about it. I think sharing concerns with your mates, or just not having that, I guess, the taboo about cancer being a really hard, because it is difficult, and it's a lot of trauma for a lot of people. But I think sharing it with your mates and just kind of being open to learning about it maybe, and kind of not being scared to go to the doctor to get, because that was the biggest thing for me. I'm just so thankful that I was encouraged by the right people to go and say, no, go and get checked, because that was kind of, don't get me wrong, it's never nice being diagnosed with anything like that, but if you find it early enough, it can be okay. And I think that's what I'm thankful for. I got in early and had the surgery, and I'm here 3 years on, and I'm all good. But I think whether it's the worst thing in the world, finding it early is so much more valuable than being scared to go to the doctor. So I'd share it, being open to discussions, and just go get checked, check yourself and go get checked.
So obviously, as an athlete who's openly, let me start again.
Queer.
I can't say that word, like queer. So as
queer?
As an athlete, openly queer, did you ever struggle to come out, or did you even come out, or was it just?
Yeah, no, I did. That's the part. I'd love one day to not have to come out, but I'd love to. Even if I do have kids one day, they don't need to come out if they are. But no, I remember telling him, I was very young. I knew I was such a young age. I just knew. I knew that's what I was interested in. I knew I didn't fancy boys. So I was very comfortable with it from quite a young age. And again, I remember telling mates and them just not being bothered. They were just like, all right, cool. Who are you going out with? Or do you know what I mean? It was normal. It was whether you're with a girl or a boy, it didn't matter. And my family are unreal as well. I think probably my dad and my brother being more open to sport, kind of understanding that there was maybe a higher chance of that happening. I don't know, but they were so chilled, completely understood from a young age. And I was very open with family and friends from a young age. I was comfortable with it, and I think that was, I didn't hide it. I didn't feel like I had to hide it, and I understand that is quite rare, and still even now it's quite rare. But I think that's why it's more important for me to be more open about it, and kind of, so I don't want it to be rare. I don't want kids to have to feel like they have to hide who they are. I think that's so sad in this day and age at 2023 that we don't have to hide who we are.
No, we don't. Well said.
This year you was awarded an MBE for football and services and charity and stuff. How did that come about, and who did you go with? How was that whole experience?
That was one of I don't think any kid when they start playing football ends up that's an aim. It was just never on the radar. Had seen obviously everyone being awarded with that. I remember Jill Scott and Steph Houghton getting it when I was at City. I think anyway. But yeah, it was. I'll never forget getting the call, and I couldn't fathom that was me in the same sentence. I was just but the thing I always say about it is or what I'm most proud of is it's not just about football. It's about personal stuff. It's about the awareness around the breast cancer awareness and charity and services to that. So it's about the whole, because I've lifted trophies with clubs, I've won individual stuff, but that was kind of much more personal. And I think having gone through that with my family, and again we spoke about Johnny and Julie and how instrumental they were about me even raising that awareness in the first place. so it was genuinely, when I found out, it was unbelievable. And then you find out in December before it's announced on New Year's Eve. That's when it's announced. And then from there you're kind of waiting to see when your date is, of when you're gonna go to Windsor or wherever it's gonna be. So I like, my mum must have asked me every week whether I'd got the letter or got the date. I was like, they were just so buzzing and couldn't wait for it. That, without a doubt, that is probably the most proud they've ever been for anything. Funny story actually with Windsor. So I was at Windsor with Prince William, and again,
casual. Yeah, casual.
Yeah, it's a sentence I never thought I'd say. Yeah. But Windsor Castle actually has like a bit of a. So the weekend I was diagnosed on a Thursday, I think, and my mum and dad came down with permission straight away for that weekend. And we actually, when I was waiting for more results on the Monday, we went to Windsor and just had like a day out, and we walked around the castle. We'd walked up the big road, I can't remember what it's called, the really long road. It's probably called the long road. And so obviously our heads were everywhere, we were waiting on results, blah, blah, blah. That all happened, and then I find out that because you can be between certain different places to be awarded your MBE or OBE or anything. And so when I found out I was at Windsor, I was like, that is the most bizarre full circle. So being back there, honestly, was so emotional in so many different levels, because it was just this crazy full circle moment. To have all my family there, my brother's wife, all 3 kids came across from France. My sister, her husband, her 2 kids came. Obviously, I got all 5 of us actually in. So my mum, dad, Johnny, Julie, all 5 of us were in, and it was, I'm not joking, like those, I remember the day before it, everyone flying in, and I hadn't really thought about it. This was June, and I'd known about it for about 6 months. And by the time that date came and then everyone was flying in for it, I was like, yeah, this actually is quite a
big deal.
Big deal, yeah. Like I was like, this is, and everyone being there. My dad had like booked out for everyone to stay near Windsor, and it was honestly one of the best days of my life. Like I can't even explain. Like being at Windsor, having my family, my close family, all the nieces and nephews, to experience something like that, to have them all there, everyone together, because we all live everywhere. We're not often all together. Mm-hmm. So to be together in Windsor Castle, my mum was, looking at all the paintings, and yeah, my brother and sister loved it as well, and it was just so nice. Like genuinely one of the best days.
Isn't it amazing in life when those moments happen?
Yeah.
You couldn't ever predict that when you're going through such turmoil, you're getting the worst news ever.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, you're there collecting an MBE with your family. Like, what a moment.
Complete full. And I've got the best picture on my phone. My phone's over there. But, like, so when you approach Prince William, you have to, like, there's a big process, and he's on this carpet, and you can't step on the carpet. So I was like, right, okay, just don't mess this up. Like, make sure you say the right thing. So I'm just, like, kind of focused, and your family, they can all come in the same room, but they walk behind you. So they're kind of stood watching. And I remember like just keeping eye contact with Prince William, trying to remember to say the right things, and obviously pictures have been taken, and like everything happens, we go on, crack on the rest of the day. And that picture, you can just see everyone just like cheesing in the background, like my whole family. And it's genuinely one of my favourite pictures, because I'm stood talking to Prince William and my family on the background, and I'm like, that is unreal. Like it's just so cool. It's just one of those like pinch me moments. I'm like, what have I done? How am I here? But then you just are in the moment, and yeah, so lucky that I could have all my family there. It was unbelievable.
Did you get nervous at all?
Oh yeah, I'm bricking it, mate. Like I don't know how to put that politely. Like, can you say bricking it on a podcast?
I think that's absolutely fair enough. I would be.
Yeah, no, like because there's so many formalities about being, I guess, when you're meeting one of the royal family members, like in addressing them the right way, approaching them the right way. So there was a lot of formalities that you get kind of briefed on when you're in the sort of, it's not a waiting room because it's the most grandest waiting room you'll ever see, but you get briefed on how to approach them and what to say. But like Prince William does so much in football, and like a lot of people, like, he's honestly I'm not going to speak about he's one of my mates, but like
Sounds like he is, Jen. Yeah.
he's a huge fan of football. Like he's a massive Villa fan. So like the conversation when we were up there was just really like he was so lovely and put me at ease straight away. And like the amount of people that he must speak to on like, but for me in that moment, like I'll never forget it. He was just such a nice guy.
Good lad.
I don't know if I can, like, can you say he's a nice guy? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd really like that. He's one of the team.
One of the lads.
Yeah.
So, knowing what you know now, like, what bit of advice would you give to your younger self, would you say?
I guess, like, when you're in sport, like, you'll know what it's like. It's super intense. It gives you the highest highs, the lowest of lows. Injuries are part and parcel. I think for me, it was maybe not getting... don't know if this will make sense, but not getting too high with the highs and too low with the lows. I think kind of trying to keep you in that sort of steady mental state and not trying to compare yourself with everyone. I think I did that far too much as a kid, like trying to see what they're doing, what can I take from them, and it was kind of like just try and find your formula, what works best for you from an early age, and take it seriously, but don't take it too seriously. Like, do your best, work as hard as you can, be the best sort of human you can be, but switch off. Go and have fun. Like, life's for that balance, and there's so much to life that you can enjoy, and I think the bumps on the road have definitely taught me that the most.
I like that. Be serious, but not too serious. That's true, though.
Be serious, but have fun with it.
Yeah, and speaking of being a good human, Jen, wow, you are one of the best, I think, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. We really, really appreciate you sharing all of your stories with us, and hopefully all of our listeners will be able to definitely get something from this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much. It's been such a nice chat. Appreciate it.
Hiya, you've been watching Stronger Than You Think with me, Jodie Ounsley.
And me, Ashleigh Wilmot. If you're enjoying the episode, then why don't you subscribe and give us a like?